I'm really pleased to be chatting to Bradley Gough today from Groubook, who's developed an app to help bookings in these COVID times for restaurants and bars in his local area of Nottingham, but rolling it out nationwide. Bradley's only 25. He's learned so much in doing this. He's not a tech guy. So much knowledge to actually share, which I know, having just spoken to him briefly before hitting the record button. Bradley, welcome to Business Questions.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you very much.
No problem at all. It's a pleasure, and thank you for taking the time. Bradley, just tell me a little bit about your app, if you could, please.
Yeah, so Groubook was conceived in October 2019. It was conceived by myself and a childhood friend of mine, a chap called Ollie Pod. And we basically went to a boat party for one of our friends who was relocated from Nottingham to Glasgow to join the Merchant Navy. He organised an event for about 24 people. After speaking to him on the night, we just found out what a nightmare it was to organise, arrange and get all those people in the same place at the same time. So we developed the concept of Groubook to simplify and reward users for going on nights out and seeing their friends more frequently.
Oh, fantastic. So you created the app from scratch with no knowledge. That must have been quite daunting.
Yeah, most definitely. I think that with apps and creative people and creativity in general, you have to just have a go at it. It's a case of you learn on the job, and as you all know yourself, it's any business setting you constantly develop and grow anyway. So it was daunting, but you get through it and you become better, all the better for it. How
did you start? Is it something you just learned how to program? Did you go to find funding? What was your route to actually getting the app to market?
So yeah, as most technology founders will tell you, and I have done, we went down the funding route at first. It wasn't successful because we tried to sell a concept that wasn't proven. So we spent a long time and a lot of time looking into how we could actually run the platform ourselves. So in terms of the coding and everything like that, again, we went first out and tried to put too many features in it when we launched, and we simplified that back down after hearing back from our beta users.
Yeah, and so you did that. Then did you then approach an app development company to produce the app?
We did that initially. So when we was looking for funding and when we first sort of was looking into the concept, we approached an app development company. We got a quote from them, and then we just built it ourselves rather than going down that route, because it's a hell of a lot of money to get these guys in. Obviously, they're extremely professional and knowledgeable. But we wanted to be much more involved in the actual inner workings of how the app works. So if there's any issues with the back end or anything like that, we understood it and we could fix it ourselves, and we could better manage our customers that way.
So you mentioned it was an expensive proposition. What sort of numbers are we talking about to have an app developed?
It depends on how sort of significant you want the back end and the front end to be. We're essentially a marketplace. There's a hell of a lot of data that goes into it and a hell of a lot of back end. So if you're talking now with very, very limited features, you're looking at about £114,000 at the moment. That was the most recent one we've had.
Yeah. Wow. So most people, a lot of viewers think, it'd be the same as having a website done, where you can have a basic one done for £1,000, a bit more flashy, 5 or 6. Then if you get up to obviously to a bigger stage, then you can get into the tens of thousands. But for a simple functional app, you'd think it'd be very inexpensive. So so you guys learned to code yourselves?
Yeah, so I spent the bulk majority of the time with a third partner. Again, the internet's absolutely fantastic for finding platforms in which you can build your own platform on, and that's exactly what we found. And what we did was we sort of designed it and changed it around from being a similar product but in a different area, and tailored it to our market in the back end and the code of that side, and changed the design, the layouts and things like that. And then we got it built in about 5 months, which is pretty good going, considering we didn't have any knowledge of how coding works and how that development process works, and deep linkage, for example, API linkage, and we had to learn all this as we went along. And we were very lucky to find what we found in terms of partners and advice that we had. It was absolutely key in launching so quickly.
That's amazing. Hopefully you might be able to share where you actually did that learning from, and I can put them in the video description below for everyone to see, to save them searching.
Most definitely. So there's a couple of different platforms. Again, it depends on what sort of app you're building. There's a great company in Nottingham called App Institute, which allow you to sort of program your own platform. We've also got a company in America called Buildfire, and they can actually build in some certain areas of your code. So if you wanted an extra feature, whether it be, I don't know, calorie counting, if you're building a calorie counting or fitness app, they can build that in for you. It costs you a bit more for the features, but the principal functionality of it is absolutely fantastic for doing quite a basic app. And also, again, if you're looking for websites, if you can Google anything from, marketplace development platforms or whatever it may be, and there's 20 or 30 different platforms that do that. You've just got to spend the time, and this is absolutely key in any young business, researching into these businesses and seeing success stories and looking at the pitfalls and trialing them. A lot of these, again, have free trials, so make sure that anyone who's developing technology themselves, if you're not a coder or a developer yourself, make sure you actually use the free trials and spend some time looking into your product.
So by doing it yourself, did you get away completely with finding any seed capital, any seed finance to start the business?
No. So our journey was a bit of a different one. So again, when we spent a lot of time looking for VCs at seed level, and your round always changes because you realise you don't need as much money if you're going to do it yourself, and you chop and change that. We invested ourselves into the business, and then we was very fortunate to have someone who joined us as an intern actually quite recently, back in August actually, who joined us quite recently. She fell in love with the business and invested a significant amount of capital herself. She's relocated from America to England to stay in the business, and she's a co-founder and invested a considerable amount of money. We've been relatively fortunate in that sense, and a sense of, we've been in bad positions with COVID where we wasn't allowed to trade, and you run out of money because you can't trade, and especially in the hospitality sector, it's been really, really unfairly targeted in our opinions. But we've had things, government grants, and we took advantage of what we could in terms of the bounce back loan scheme, as well as, our own capital and, a small seed investor that gave the company its initial value. And that means that we can push on and develop. And once we got the platform out there, we started seeing a lot more interest from, angel investors or smaller venture capital companies that took interest because we had traction and we backed up what we said. So it's looking a lot easier now than it is. We've had 3 or 4 meetings in the past 2 weeks with investors to raise an extra 200,000 quid, which will give us a 2 million valuation. We're currently sat at about 750,000. And then what we want to do is put that money back into product and marketing in order to develop the business from there.
Fantastic. And I think, like, I have a little book publishing company, and creating a book, I know what I'm doing. It's relatively simple for me to do that. Yeah. You've developed an app, you've got that. But then the hard bit, once you've got it, is actually selling it, getting actually into the market. How have you got people to know about your app in terms of the end user, but also the bars, restaurants, hotels, venues?
It was done very backwards again, because we didn't raise that significant amount of money, and we spent a lot of time early on looking into how much we would get in terms of Facebook impressions and ad impressions if we spent 2 million a year on media budgets, and we had a really talented head of media who'd spent 4 or 5 million a year for companies on that sort of thing, help us with that. But what we did was, again, we strip it back to basics. It's a case of, I'm an old school salesman, so I could pick the phone up 40, 50 times a day, and that's how we got in with the merchants initially. And we started, speaking to those venues and those restaurants, those bars and those activity providers. We rang up and really hounded them. And it was a case of old school driving around the city or walking around the city of Nottingham, knocking on doors saying, hi, this is what we do. Would you give us a chance? Same with users, we spent very minimal money in terms of marketing because, we was building products and we're spending a lot of time on that. But what we eventually did was, we went back to real basics of getting flyers printed out and going into the city. And as you can see by the brand, we're often walking around in branded clothes, and we've been stopped a few times saying, what's that, what does it do? But it's a case of really trying to drill down and use that word of mouth referral schemes and giving users incentives to book through us, because we offer them fantastic incentives in terms of rewards and discounts, and we make it simpler. And one of the biggest pains, for getting together with 60 friends is that, especially if some of you got children, or you live in different cities or different places, dates, times, what do you want to do, all of this comes into play, and we holistically reward simplifying that and giving our users a better way to get together. So really old school marketing, really simple, and it works quite well for us in Nottingham, and now it's a case of expanding across the UK over the next 12-18 months.
I think that completely resonates with me and my businesses. The old school is just been by far the best way. And it resonates when I, probably the late 1990s, I was speaking to a mobile hairdresser, and she was explaining one day, had no work, and she was with her mother, and her mother said, what are you doing? Sitting down. She goes, well, I've got no clients. She goes, well, it's very simple. Get some leaflets, go and burn some shoe leather. leaflets through the doors. How are people going to buy from you if they don't know you exist? And I've done that in my business, you know, and I don't like sales, but I used to be a wedding photographer. And you went to a wedding fair, you got the database of the brides and the grooms. Everyone else just emailed. I was on the phone and I just got booked out solid. You know,
Again,
old
it's
school
that
work.
relationship.
Yeah. And I'm not cold calling direct to customers maybe, but certainly to businesses. My book publishing is quite a niche. Yeah, I walk into the venues, the booksellers, hey, this is my book. Would you like to sell it? Even to the extent of like Waterstones, etc. And it gets to the bar in Waterstones. Yeah, that's fantastic. Then they order through the appropriate channels. You know, it just works. People have got to get out there and let people know about their business.
That's the thing. It's the same with customer service, isn't it? As well, we had a customer that you know had an issue with something. Anyway, and I noticed this on, you know, a review. I can't remember where it was, the life of me, but I noticed that it fell up to the customer. I said, "How you doing? I'm the CEO of Groubook. I really want to find out about your experience and what we could do to improve it." She was like, "I've never been contacted by a business after leaving a review." I was like, "It's important to me, and I mean that, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to become a business that just thinks constantly about profits. Profits are very important, right? But your customers are always the most important thing first and foremost." So we had a conversation, we resoluted it, we gave us some discount moving forward, and that completely sorted it. And as you've said, you know, it goes back to this sales, and you know, everyone gets nervous about that word. That word puts people off into sales. Or I'm not a salesman, you know, I'm not a car salesman. That's what you get, or double glazing salesman from the 80s. No, what you are is you're building a relationship, just like you would a partner, a friend. You know, you meet them once and then you start talking, you get on, and that's what it's about. It's about that. It's relationships. It's relationship management. So whether you're, you know, Google or Microsoft or Joe Blogg's Flowers around the corner, you know, you will get repeat business because of your relationships. People buy from people, and that's so fundamental. You can have the greatest idea in the world, but if you know you don't come across as genuine or very well, or you know you're not willing to put those hard yards in, you are not going to succeed. You're not going to retain customers and grow your business. And it's the same in every aspect of your life. If you work for someone, you have to have good relationships with your colleagues and your boss, and that's how you get on. But it's all about that relationship. On both sides, again, every aspect of every business, whether you know you're talking suppliers, you're talking colleagues, you're talking, or in our case, employees, or you're talking you know, customers, whether it's B2B or B2C, whatever it may be, you have to keep strong relationships, and you will always learn about your business and how to improve by asking those relationships first. So asking your customers, what can I do better? Asking your employees, what would you like to see more? You know, asking your suppliers, right, you guys suppliers with pens, do you know a good paper provider you can get as an intro to, who will give us a good discount and good quality products, and you will get them because you have that relationship.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Completely, it's how I like to run my business as well. I think it's absolutely fundamental. Are you using a CRM platform at all, or?
Yeah, in terms of, it's not been used a lot recently because unfortunately everyone's been on furlough for quite some time. But again, CRMs for B2B. We have a very secure encrypted database for B2C and you know, users, because we store credit card information and things like that. But yeah, CRM, best one to use by far in the market, and it's free, is HubSpot. It is fantastic. If you're looking for something a bit more, you know, powerful, you can upgrade it and tailor it to you. But you know, there's plenty out there. You've got Salesforce and plenty of others. But if you're a startup business and you want to minimize your costs, which my advice to you guys who's doing that, minimize everything, do everything for free if you can, because you can make it work, right? It's tough, but you can make it fit your business. But yeah, HubSpot's phenomenal for that sort of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. You're in my HubSpot. So, you know. I'd just like to briefly talk, because obviously the app is not what it was set out to be. You've had to pivot, as you mentioned earlier on, due to COVID. Just talk about that process and how you had to pivot.
Again, it's almost taking your ego out of it, because we've got a grand sort of plan and a grand design for how we want the app to be eventually, right? So that's brilliant, but it's going to be no good now. So what we did is we put a few more features in the app that's out there now out to beta. And what you do with beta users is you test it on as many people as you see fit. And we sent it out, and the responses we got was, it's just confusing. You know, I just want to be able to go on and book what I want to do. I don't want to have to go through, you know, this process and this process. And what we learn after that is it equates to things like churn rate and booking success, and all of these things are absolutely vital, vitally boring, but very, very important to any business. But you know, we put all these features in, and what we did was, when we realized what was going on, this was like a week into our first week of trading for the app. What we did, as soon as we got that feedback from the beta users, we pulled it. So we literally left the website online, and that was it. You could only book on website, while we went back and took things out. And that's what we did. We stripped it back to the bare bones. Even the sign-up process and the booking process, we got it down from 5 or 6 to three stages, or whatever it may be now. Because every stumbling block that you have, everything you put in there, what you think is a phenomenally good feature at the time, is a stumbling block from a user, you know, booking, whatever it may be. And it's the same, you know, with book publishing and things like that. If you say, you know, it pops up on your website that you're selling, I don't know, Ant Middleton's biography or something like that, and you say, are you interested in joining the SAS? No. Are you interested in the military? No. They're going to pull out at some point, because they're going to think, well, why do you need to know if I'm buying a book? It doesn't matter. I just want to, you know, get there. I want to order the book, put my delivery details, and pay for it and go. You know, that's what it's about. So you have to take your ego out of it. And again, it goes back to the relationship with the customer, and trusting what they say to you is the fact that they're going to be the people that tell their friends about your business and help grow your business. So why would you make it more complicated, or leave things in that, you know, annoy that customer or slow that customer's day down? Because we're in a generation now where everything needs to be very, very quick, fast fashion, fast, absolutely everything. So keep it as simple as you can. That's my only advice, and that's what we didn't do initially, but we listened and we pivoted and we grew. And again, with things like COVID, when COVID came in, we had to look at introducing things like when the bubbles came in, when the tiered restrictions came in, are you part of the same bubble? We had to ask that question. You know, we put that in our booking process, because we needed to know. We limited the booking numbers to 6 when you wasn't allowed 6 from 2 households or whatever it was. We limited that, and you wasn't allowed to book that. So again, it's a case of making sure that your ears are open a little bit. And I was always told by one of my old managers when I was much younger, you have 2 of these and 1 of these for a reason. And that's probably the best advice. And over the last couple of years that, you know, we've been running Groubook and developing it, that's the thing I've learned, is listen to people, because people generally want the best for you and want to see your business do well, whatever it is, and they think you've got something, so that's why they use you. But it's a case of, if a customer's, you know, saying, right, okay, I think that could be better, and we was just having this conversation, if it can be better, why not make it better? If it can be, you know, if you're coming in with a finished article, ultimately someone at some point in time is going to come along with a very similar idea with a couple more things that make them better. And that's how you fall off the wayside. Again, you think of companies like, you know, Facebook and the leader in social media and all of these other, you know, giants. But do you remember MySpace? Do you remember Bebo? Do you remember Pixar? All of these social media companies came before, and at one point were touted as the best things ever, but they fell off for whatever reason that may be. And that might be user experience, or it may be user interfaces, or it may be back end, or it may be, you know, internally. It could be anything. It doesn't matter. What you have to do is make sure your product is always going somewhere and isn't there and that's it. Because if it's there and that's it, where do you go as a, you know, as a business owner? Passion's so incredibly important, because when you sat there and, you know, the money's draining out your bank account and you're thinking, like, Christ, you know, I don't know how I'm going to pay the mortgage next month, or pay the rent next month, or how I'm going to pay my employees. You're the one who then has to dig deep at that point and think, right, okay, this is where we're at. Where do we go? What do I need to achieve now to get over it? And that is so fundamentally important to you know, grow your business.
Absolutely. And in terms of the in the app, did you develop it for Apple and Android, or is it one or the other?
Both. So it's on both platforms. That was one of the hardest things I've done, is getting it approved by Apple. It was like 14 variation changes, and it was a nightmare. Google and Android was actually quite simple. It was literally submit, bang, there you go. But all of that stuff is a different world entirely, because again, you have to deep link, and the way that coding, and especially those platforms, are meant for coders and programmers and developers. That's what they're meant for. So this stuff comes on your screen sometimes and you go, I have no clue what this means. I do not know. So you like ringing people and trying to Google stuff and learn it, and like, okay, right, sound, I need to do that. I need to, you know, make sure my APK is fine. I need to look at this. And you go through this process and you think, I still don't know what it is, but at least it's done. You know, I got it over the line. And we went through so many versions of Apple saying no, because this link doesn't seem to work properly, or this is slightly broken, or, you know, there's data issues here, or whatever it may be. They will come back to you. And they're very good at that, because again, they make you think about everything. They sort of improve you without actually having anything to do with you, because you have to pay them fees. You have to pay them, it's like 100 quid a year or something like that, right? They're very, very cheap on that sense for the platform you get. but they do make you think about your business, which is great.
Brilliant. And how do you plan? Obviously, you could use footwork around Nottingham. How are you going to roll it out around the country? I'd imagine, obviously, that's not scalable around the country. It's going to be something you have to do via digital marketing. Do
Yeah.
you have a plan in place for that? Have you gone out and actually learned? I mean, to advertise on Facebook at a basic level is very easy, and same
Yep.
Instagram, same owners, obviously. Have you gone away and really learned how to do that at a far deeper level, and now got an understanding and a plan of how to take the business forward?
You have to. You absolutely have to. And as you've said, if you're a small company that, you know, and that's what you're going to be, it's very, very easy to advertise on, you know, Facebook and Instagram and things like that. But then you have to look at it on a deeper level. You have to make sure that we was talking about SEO earlier on, and it's the same principle. You have to make sure that you're hitting the right notes, because if you're a ladies hairdresser, you don't want to be attracting middle-aged bald men. You know, it's not going to work for you, because, you know, you can get all this reach, and Facebook are brilliant at what they do, but they do sort of sell you the dream and say, you know, you can hit 250,000 people with, you can get 250,000 impressions with 100 quid or whatever it may be, depending on your area. But one thing you've got to make sure is you're hitting the right target market, because all of these, especially in, you know, a tech world, add into your cost per acquisition of the customer. You have to look at that consistently. You have to go, right, okay, how much does it cost us to acquire a customer? And then you look at lifetime values and things. So you have to make sure that when you're using things like Facebook, you are targeting it. So you're setting groups up, set groups up for yourself would be my best advice. So if you're, you know, a ladies hairdresser, you attract mainly 21 to 25-year-old women, then you want to look at, right, okay, interest, this, and, you know, plan it and be planned in terms of what you're doing. Don't just I've got the word, but I don't want to swear. But don't throw the sticky stuff at the wall and see what sticks. It isn't going to work. It's got to be planned, because otherwise you're going to be in a hole. You're going to think, right, you know, we're spending £1,000 a month on Facebook advertising. We're only getting 2 customers. What's going wrong? Is it us? Is there something wrong with us? And no, there isn't. What's wrong with, you know, with you at this point is you're too generalist.
Not targeted enough.
Yeah, you're not targeted enough. So you're hitting people, but you're not hitting the right people. Rather than spending, you know, £1,000, why not spend £200 and get 10 bookings a month off it, or whatever it may be? Take your time and actually understand your customers. And the great thing is, and you touched upon it with HubSpot there, you can use social media very, very well, and you can look at, you know, interests and what they like and what they share, and you can target off the back of that, which is phenomenally good. Or even on Instagram now, you can target other businesses' followers. You know, you can look at your competitors' followers and then go, right, okay, let's stick a little cheeky advert out there and see if we can market to their customers direct, because we're 10% cheaper, or we've got a better service. And then you create your strategy around that. So whether it's, you know, 10% cheaper, you create something on something like a Canva or something free, where you can create really good marketing material, and then you can just ping it out to those customers and highlight what's better for them than what your competitors are offering. It's quite simple.
Yeah, and through your sort of research, do you think there's any sort of minimum spend you have to make to really see a return on Facebook? Because it's very easy to throw 50 quid, 100 quid, and you come a bit of disillusion because you're not getting any return. Do you have to hit a certain level, do you think, to start seeing the bookings coming in, to basically to have the amount of impressions you need, enough times to each individual customer for them to actually take action?
I mean, we had a campaign very, very early on, back in August, just after we launched. It was the sort of first big event that we had, and we was working with a local bar. It was the only one in Nottingham charging for a boxing fight, which wasn't Anthony Joshua or Tyson Fury, so they're not easy to sell unless they're those two names, right? Yeah. What we did is, I think we only put 50 quid in, and we got 60 bookings on Facebook, but it was very targeted. Again, you have to make sure that if you're going to do that, you have to be targeted. But a general rule of thumb with PR and marketing for any business is you're meant to spend 10% of your yearly revenue on PR and marketing, you know, because it hits the right demographic. But what you should do is make sure you would much rather acquire customers for a lot less than chucking too much money at something. Chucking money at things does not solve things. It doesn't make your bookings skyrocket. It doesn't help. So what you need to do, as I've sort of said again, if you're talking 50 quid or whatever it may be, again, you can target this over days. So if you want to do a $5 a day for 28 days, you can pick all of this stuff on Facebook if you don't know that. But make sure that it's the right people, and then you'll get a return. Again, it might not be instantaneous, and it's the same with SEO. It can take 6 months, it can take whatever. What it also does is it leaves, your brand imprinted in people's minds because they're seeing it. And that's the great thing about psychological marketing, is the fact that you're there, you're seen, and they take it in. So it's the same why people still use billboards and things when you're driving, and companies like Driven Media have done so well because they understand that these things are seen a lot. So your brand can be seen a lot, and that's what marketing is. Marketing is seeing, getting seen, getting noticed. That's what it's about, and then getting that interest to go to the website, to go to the booking link, or to pop into your shop or whatever it may be. Then it's down to you. That's when the relationship's passed over to you to sell and close and start building those relationships with your customers.
Absolutely. I think you've got some absolutely, some absolutely great advice there. Very, very useful indeed. And a lot of it is actually, common sense in having the passion and determination to actually learn, because we have to invest in knowledge. We have to invest in ourselves. We tend to get to business and we stop doing that. But, I think that even if you look in sports, you know what, those guys, they're having professional coaches every day.
Yeah.
They play, if you like football, they're not playing the same way they played 10 years ago, right?
Awesome.
They've got a coach saying, actually, what about this? The coaches are learning tactics. They're always developing and learning. If you work for a corporation, they're sending you on courses, hopefully, all the time for your own development. And we've got to do that as individuals who own our own businesses as well. We can't forget about ourselves. So I think what you've been saying really, really resonates on a really good level. What I'm going to do now is just have a little chat to you for a section for our members. If you weren't aware, on business questions, we have all this free content, which is available on YouTube. We do have a member section where we have extended interviews, and those really where the golden nuggets appear, where you can really find some deep information. And also we host those on Vimeo, so they're actually advert free. And you also get your own bonus content as well, which is only on Vimeo, only for members. And we will be offering discounts and offers for the members. So everyone on YouTube, thank you very much. Please do give us a like. Please subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends about it. We're trying to help all the other small businesses out there. Really appreciate your help in sharing. And have a look at the app as well. We're going to put all the links where to find it down below in the description. So yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Bradley. We're going to continue our chat over on the other side.
Look forward to it.